There comes a moment in every life when you stop running. Not because the road has ended, but because you are too exhausted to keep carrying the weight inside your own mind. The battle has stolen your peace, your confidence, and your joy. Yet in that silence, you notice something unexpected. The chains that have bound you for years are not pulling you forward. They are only waiting for you to believe they cannot be broken. For years, you believed every harsh thought that crossed your mind. Every failure became proof that you were not enough. Every rejection became evidence that you were unworthy. Without realizing it, you handed your thoughts the authority to define your identity. You never questioned their truth because they spoke with the voice you had known for so long, but familiarity has never been the same as truth. Imagine a prisoner who has worn chains since childhood. Day after day, year after year, he forgets what freedom even feels like. One morning, he notices something strange. The chains are old, cracked, and covered in rust. They still rest around his wrists, but they no longer hold the strength they once did. The only force keeping him captive is the belief that escape is impossible. That prisoner is every one of us. Negative thoughts work the same way. They arrive without invitation and repeat themselves until they sound like facts. You'll never succeed. You're too late. People like you don't win. The more often they speak, the more convincing they become. Yet a thought repeated 1,000 times does not become reality. It only becomes a habit. And every habit can be interrupted by someone willing to wake up. The first step toward freedom is not fighting every negative thought, it is noticing it. Most people react before they even realize what has happened. Their emotions rise, their confidence falls, and their actions follow the same familiar path. But the moment you become aware of your thinking, you create a space between the thought and your response. Inside that space lives the power to choose a different direction. Think of the sky after a violent storm. Dark clouds gather, thunder shakes the earth, and rain hides the sun. Yet above every storm, the sky remains untouched. Your mind is the same. Thoughts are like passing weather. They arrive, they make noise, and eventually they leave. The mistake is believing that because the storm exists, it has become the entire sky. You are not the storm. You are the one watching it pass. This realization changes everything. You are not trapped because your thoughts are powerful. You are trapped because you forgot that you are more powerful than your thoughts. The chains begin to weaken the moment you stop obeying every voice that speaks inside your head. Freedom does not begin with a perfect mind. It begins with a single decision: to pause, to observe, and to reclaim the authority that has always belonged to you. The next time a negative thought enters your mind, resist the urge to fight it. Instead, look at it as though it belongs to a stranger passing you on a crowded street. You do not have to chase every person you meet, and you do not have to follow every thought that appears. The moment you stop giving it your attention, you weaken its influence. What once controlled you begins to lose its grip. There is an old blacksmith who smiles each time a spark leaps from the anvil. He knows the spark is loud, bright, and dramatic, but it never shapes the steel. Only the steady, deliberate strikes of the hammer do that. Your negative thoughts are like those sparks. They flash with emotion and demand your attention, but they do not define who you become. Your repeated choices are the hammer that forges your future. Every time you interrupt a destructive thought, you create a small crack in the chain that once held you captive. The crack may seem insignificant, almost invisible, but strength is never built through one grand victory. It is built through hundreds of quiet decisions no one else will ever see. Each time you refuse to surrender your peace, another link begins to break. One day, you will look back and realize the chain is gone. Do not wait until you feel confident before taking action. Confidence is rarely the beginning of the journey. More often, it is the reward for continuing despite uncertainty. The voice of fear will insist that you are not ready, that you should wait for the perfect moment, but the perfect moment has never existed. Every courageous life was built by people who moved forward while fear walked beside them. Picture a traveler climbing a steep mountain before sunrise. The path is hidden in darkness, and only the next few steps are visible. If he refuses to move until he can see the entire journey, he will remain exactly where he started. Yet with every step forward, more of the path is revealed. Life works the same way. Clarity is not given before action. It is earned because of action. From this day forward, make a simple promise to yourself. Whenever your mind whispers, "I can't," answer with, "I will try." When it says, "I always fail," remind yourself, "I have learned before, and I can learn again." You are not pretending the struggle is easy. You are refusing to let one thought write the story of your life. Every empowering response is another strike against the chains that once confined you. The greatest victory is not reaching a place where negative thoughts never appear. Such a place does not exist. The greatest victory is standing in their presence without surrendering your direction. You begin to realize that peace is not found by controlling every thought. It is found by choosing which thoughts deserve your belief. That quiet choice, repeated every day, becomes the foundation of a truly unbreakable mind. One morning, you wake to discover that the battle inside your mind has not disappeared, but something has changed. The voices that once shouted now sound like distant echoes. They still arrive, yet they no longer command your obedience. You finally understand that strength is not measured by the absence of fear. It is measured by your willingness to keep moving even while fear is trying to slow your steps. Close your eyes and picture the prisoner standing at the edge of an open gate. For years he believed someone else held the key, but today he notices the lock was never closed. The chains that once wrapped around his wrists fall to the ground with a quiet sound. He does not run. He simply takes one careful step into the light. Freedom rarely arrives with fireworks. Most often it begins with one brave decision. As you walk beyond those invisible chains, you realize they were never forged from steel. They were shaped from fear, doubt, shame, and stories repeated so many times they felt like facts. Every time you questioned your worth, another link was added. Every time you accepted defeat before trying, another knot was tied. But today, you choose a different story. Today, your past no longer has permission to decide your future. Never believe that one difficult day means you have failed. Even the strongest minds face moments of weakness. There will be mornings when old thoughts return, knocking loudly at the door of your mind. Let them knock. You do not have to invite them inside. The person you are becoming is not defined by the thoughts that appear, but by the choices you make after they arrive. That is where true mastery begins. Imagine a blacksmith holding a sword he spent months forging. It was shaped by countless strikes, cooled by patience, and strengthened by relentless fire. Your mind is no different. Every challenge you overcome, every fear you confront, and every negative thought you refuse to obey becomes another strike that makes your character stronger. The fire that once threatened to destroy you is now the fire that shapes who you become. Remember this truth whenever life feels heavy. No chain is broken in a single pull. Every act of courage weakens it. Every hopeful thought cracks another link. Every disciplined choice brings you closer to freedom. One day, someone will ask how you became so strong. They will never see the quiet battles you fought in silence, but you will know. Your greatest victories were won inside your own mind where no one else was watching. Now the chains lie behind you, but an empty space remains where they once held you. That space cannot stay empty for long. If you do not fill it with purpose, discipline, and empowering beliefs, the old patterns will quietly return. Freedom is only the beginning. The next step is to build a mind so strong that doubt can visit, but never again take control. And that is where our journey continues. In Chapter 7, Building a New Mind. Thank you for walking this path with the Inner Forge. Every chapter brings you closer to the person you were always capable of becoming. If this story spoke to you, share it with someone who may still be carrying invisible chains. Subscribe, continue the journey, and remember, keep forging. Your story isn't finished.